In the heart of the Caribbean in 1650, the seas were ruled by chaos and ambition, where pirates carved their names into history with blood and steel. Among them, none was more feared or revered than Idris the Bloody, a towering figure with a jet-black beard that seemed to swallow light and eyes that burned with an otherworldly fire. Idris was no ordinary pirate. Whispers claimed he was a sorcerer who spoke to the sea itself, navigating its secrets with a knowledge no mortal should possess. His legend was forged not just by his ruthless raids, but by a treasure so vast it defied belief: the Golden Dragon's hoard. This fabled cache was said to hold the wealth of a lost empire, gold bars stacked like firewood jewels that pulsed with unnatural light, and a map to a hidden realm beneath the waves, a place of power no man had ever seen. The story of the treasure began when Idris ambushed a Spanish galleon laden with riches plundered from the New World. The ship's hold was a glittering labyrinth of wealth, but it came with a warning etched into the crates, a curse from the ancient Maya, promising death to any who dared claim it. Idris, whose heart scoffed at superstition, laughed as he seized the treasure, heedless of the ominous words. He sailed to a place known only in hushed tales, the Isle of Mist, a spectral island that appeared on no chart, cloaked in an eternal fog that swallowed ships whole. There, he hid the treasure, vowing it would be his legacy. But the curse was no myth. His crew, once loyal to a fault, began to unravel. Some were driven mad, clawing at their own faces as they screamed of shadows in the deep. Others vanished into the night, their screams echoing across the waves. Idris himself, undaunted at first, grew haunted, his dreams plagued by visions of a golden dragon with eyes of fire. One stormy night, he vanished, leaving behind a map drawn in his own blood, its cryptic symbols pointing to the Isle of Mist. The map was torn into 4 pieces, scattered across the seas by betrayal and misfortune, becoming the obsession of every pirate, adventurer and fool brave enough to chase a cursed dream. 20 years later, in 1670, a young sailor named Yassir emerged from the bustling ports of Alexandria, Egypt, with a fire in his soul and a dream to etch his name into eternity. Yassir was no ordinary man. His mind was as sharp as his blade, his courage a beacon in the darkest storms. Tales of Idris' treasure had reached him through a grizzled old sailor who spoke of the Golden Dragon, Hoard, with a mix of awe and dread. Yassir knew this was his destiny. He scraped together every coin he had to buy a weathered ship he christened the Sea Falcon, a vessel as scrappy and defiant as its captain. He assembled a crew of misfits, each a legend in their own right. Layla, a Tunisian pirate with a tongue as quick as her rapier and a knack for slipping through impossible odds. Khaled, a Yemeni giant whose strength could splinter oak and whose loyalty was unbreakable. Martin, a Dutch navigator whose knowledge of the Caribbean's currents was unmatched. And Amira, a cryptic scholar from Damascus who could decipher ancient tongues as easily as she read the stars. Their quest began with the hunt for the first piece of Idris' map, rumored to be locked in a Spanish fortress in Havana, Cuba, a stone monolith bristling with cannons and guarded by a garrison of elite soldiers. Layla, ever the strategist, devised a plan to infiltrate the fortress through a network of forgotten tunnels beneath its walls, mapped out from a parchment stolen from a drunken merchant. The crew moved under cover of night, their footsteps muffled by the damp earth, but a misstep triggered an alarm. The tunnels erupted into chaos as soldiers poured in, their swords glinting in the torchlight. Yassir, quick on his feet, spotted a stack of powder kegs and, with a spark from his flint, ignited them. The explosion shook the fortress, crumbling walls and scattering the guards, giving the crew just enough time to seize the map fragment from a locked chest in the governor's chamber. They fled into the night, the Sea Falcon cutting through the waves as cannon fire roared behind them. Their prize clutched tightly in Yassir's hands, a tattered piece of parchment stained with blood and secrets. But the map was only the beginning. Word of their success spread like wildfire across the Caribbean, painting a target on the Sea Falcon. Every pirate worth their salt wanted the treasure, but none were as dangerous as Henry the Cruel, an English pirate whose name was synonymous with slaughter. Henry commanded a fleet of 12 ships, each bristling with cannons and manned by cutthroats who feared him more than death. He believed the Golden Dragon's hoard was his birthright, and he would carve through anyone to claim it. The inevitable clash came off the coast of the Bahamas, where Henry's fleet descended on the Sea Falcon like wolves on a lone stag. The odds were grim, 12 against 1, but Yassir was no stranger to defying fate. He noticed the wind shifting, a fierce gale that could be his ally. Ordering his crew to douse barrels of oil and set them ablaze, he cast them into the sea, creating a wall of fire that engulfed 2 of Henry A.S. ships and forced the others to scatter. Layla, seizing the moment, swung across to Henry's flagship on a rope, her blade dancing through the air as she cut down his men. In the chaos, she found the second piece of the map in Henry's cabin, a prize he'd stolen from a rival years before. She barely escaped as the ship caught fire, diving into the sea and swimming back to the Sea Falcon. The victory was costly. Khaled took a cannonball shard to the shoulder, and the Sea Falcon's hull was battered. They limped to a hidden cove on a nameless island to lick their wounds and repair their ship. There, Amira studied the 2 map pieces, her brow furrowed as she realized the symbols were written in a lost Mayan dialect, incomprehensible without help. The crew decided to seek Don Carlos, a reclusive archaeologist in Mexico, who was said to know the secrets of the Maya better than anyone alive. The journey to Mexico was perilous, the seas alive with storms and the ever-present threat of Henry's vengeance. When they reached the Yucatan, they found Don Carlos's village deep in a jungle so dense it seemed to breathe. The path to him was a gauntlet of traps, pitfalls lined with spikes, vines rigged to loose poisoned darts, and swamps where crocodiles lurked with only their eyes breaking the surface. Yassir's quick thinking saved them more than once, using his dagger to cut through tripwires and his instincts to spot danger. When they finally reached Don Carlos, a wiry man with eyes like ancient amber, he was reluctant to help, wary of treasure hunters. But Amira's knowledge of ancient scripts impressed him, and Yassir's sincerity won him over. Don Carlos revealed the truth. The Golden Dragon's hoard was no mere pile of gold. It was a relic of the Maya, a chest imbued with a power that could bend reality, guarded by a curse that would consume any who touched it without performing a sacred ritual. He deciphered the map fragments, revealing that the Isle of Mist lay in the heart of the Devil's Triangle, a cursed stretch of sea where ships vanished without a trace. As they prepared to leave, Don Carlos gave them a warning. The curse was alive, and Idris's spirit might still guard his prize. Undaunted, Yassir rallied his crew, and they set sail, their hearts pounding with equal parts fear and exhilaration. The voyage to the Devil's Triangle tested their resolve. Storms battered the Sea Falcon, and strange lights danced on the horizon, whispering of doom. One night, a ship emerged from the fog, its sails tattered and its hull glowing with an unearthly green. At its helm stood the spectre of Idris the Bloody, his eyes hollow and his voice like the wind through a crypt. He warned Yassir to turn back, declaring that the treasure belonged to the dead. Khaled, his wound still fresh, roared defiance, and Yassir steered the Sea Falcon onward, refusing to bow to ghosts. When they reached the Isle of Mist, it was as if the sea itself parted to reveal it, the fog curling back like a living thing. The island was a jagged nightmare of black rock and twisted trees, its air heavy with the scent of decay. They ventured inland, guided by the map, and found a cave hidden behind a waterfall, its entrance carved with Mayan glyphs that pulsed faintly. Inside, the cave was a labyrinth of traps, blades that sprang from walls, floors that crumbled into pits of spikes, and shadows that seemed to move on their own. Amira's translations kept them alive, guiding them past each deadly obstacle, but the air grew thicker, the curse's presence palpable. They faced guardians too, creatures of stone and shadow, their eyes glowing like the jewels they protected. Khaled's strength shattered the stone beasts, while Layla's agility outwitted the shadows, but each fight left them more battered, their resolve stretched to breaking. As they reached the heart of the cave, they found the Golden Dragon's hoard, a chest of pure gold, its surface etched with dragons that seemed to writhe in the torchlight filled with jewels that sang with a haunting melody. But their triumph was short-lived. Henry the Cruel had followed them, aided by a traitor in Yassir's crew, Martin, the navigator, who had sold their secrets for a share of the treasure. Henry's men stormed the cave, and a brutal battle erupted. Swords clashed, blood soaked the stone, and the air rang with the screams of the dying. Yassir faced Henry in a duel that shook the cave, the pirate's strength nearly overwhelming him. But Yassir was cunning, luring Henry into a trap, a rigged pillar that collapsed, crushing him under a cascade of rock. With Henry dead, the crew turned to the chest, but Amira's voice stopped them. She reminded them of Don Carlos's warning to take the treasure without the ritual was to invite death. Yassir, his heart torn between greed and wisdom, chose the latter. Guided by Amira, they performed the ritual, chanting words older than the sea, offering a sacrifice of their own blood to appease the Mayan spirits. The chest's glow faded, the air lightened, and the curse was broken. They left the treasure behind, knowing its power was too great for the world above. The Sea Falcon sailed away, its crew forever changed. Yassir became a legend, his name whispered in every port from the Caribbean to the Mediterranean. The Golden Dragon's hoard remained on the Isle of Mist, a challenge for the next fool or hero brave enough to seek it. Some say Yassir returned years later, older and wiser, to ensure the treasure stayed hidden. Others claim he found the hidden realm the map promised, a world of wonders beyond imagining. But one truth endured. The tale of Yassir and the Golden Dragon's hoard lived on, a story of courage, betrayal, and the thin line between dreams and damnation, forever etched into the heart of the sea.